3. So we'll call this Explorer Video 2. China limits European contact. These are the vocabulary words you should be able to define or explain the importance of by the end of watching the video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 words, right? So we're going to talk with Zheng He. I've heard it pronounced 800 ways. I'm going to go with Zheng He. He's a famous explorer, and we're going to talk a lot about him. But one of the things that makes him interesting, remember last video, we talked about the Caravel. Look at the size of his ship compared to the Santa Maria that Columbus used. All right. Here are the voyages Zheng He's known for. Okay. So again, the theme here is going to be that China limits European contact. And I forgot to set the timer. By the way, the password for today's video is going to be Legos, because I stepped one on my way to make this video. So the password is Legos. All right. So early on at the beginning, the Ming dynasty is going to rule China, right? Korea and Southeast Asia are forced to pay tribute, basically money it's don't beat us up money. All right. Hong Wu was the first Ming emperor after he defeated the Mongols in 1368. So Hong Wu's success starts the Ming dynasty. Reforms agriculture. He goes back to normal Confucian traditions. Improve the government by giving jobs to people who earned it. All right. He was known to be ruthless, somewhat, you might even say, Machiavellian. After he dies, Hong Wu dies. Young Lo takes over. He moved the royal court to Beijing. He's the one who builds the Forbidden City. He had a curiosity about the outside world. He's the one, Young Lo. Y pays for Z. Zheng He goes on all those missions, travel long distance, many people, use ships, used to show Chinese superiority, and eventually they get 16 countries paying tribute. Eventually, though, what are we looking about? 28 years later, people say this looks like a waste of money, and China became isolated. So there's this 28-year window of opportunity where China is open, looking to be involved with other countries. Then it closes. Let's talk a little bit more about Zheng He. And it's really interesting. They're finding some data, the sort of anchors he used in places that they can't explain where they found them. All right. Zheng He already. This is from a book, The Year China Discovered America, 2002. He wants to rewrite world history. The author suggests that 4 Chinese fleets visit every part of the world except Europe, again, in the 1420s. And part of what he uses, argument that they got to Americas and all that, were the discovery of these different anchors, all right? Don't forget, Young Lo is the one who builds the Forbidden City. Takes 14 years to build. And again, commoners and foreigners are not allowed in. Again, Hong Wu leads to Young Lo. Young Lo's son becomes victorious. He was Young Lo, his son, again, Zheng He. This is the explorations that most historians agree on. There is, again, that belief that he gets to as far as the Africa, to the Americas, not just Africa. All right? Huge, huge missions. Huge boats, huge missions. Same picture like 6 times. All right, it's my bad. The Ming relations with a foreign country, they're basically become isolated, as we said. Only the government could conduct foreign trade, and they only do it through 3 ports, Canton, Macau, and Ningbo. Isolation, don't want any outsiders coming in. Europeans start smuggling goods, because anytime there's a restriction to trade, people are going to find a way around it. What's interesting is partly what's holding China back is Confucian belief sees manufacturing and trade as less honorable than agriculture. So the government's going to support agriculture, all right? And taxes were low on agriculture, high in manufacturing. After the Ming dynasty falls, the Qing dynasty takes over, 1644. Manchurians from northeast China seize power. At first, people resist the rule by these non-Chinese Manchus. They kept order by keeping traditional societal social structure in place. They made China a little bit bigger, lowered taxes. And what's interesting, connection to the Reformation, they welcomed Jesuits into the royal court to learn more about European life. The Qing dynasty also isolated. Only people allowed in were the Jesuits. They used Jesuits to get math, science, medicine. Qianlong, one of the more famous grandsons, ruled from 1736 to 1795. During this time, China reached its greatest size and prosperity, and it most importantly allowed missionaries in. Conquered Korea, go back to Confucian ideas. The Chinese, Japanese tensions begin. They argue that their kingdom was the center of the universe. That should say 4. And this is interesting. You could only trade using those special ports, pay tribute. The tributing was called kowtowing. You would have to bend into respect. The Dutch are like, dude, we'll do whatever you want to trade. The Dutch say they won't. Dutch say yes. The British say no. And by 1800, tea was 80% of the shipments going from China to the Dutch. So the Dutch East India Company gets rich. The British, or just the flat out East India Company, does not get rich. And China's so self-sufficient, they don't need the British. Again, the other vocabulary word I would say here is the kowtow. I guess the last thing here is Chinese families favored sons over daughters. Sons were in charge of religious rituals. As the parents grew older, they could farm. Females were not as valuable in the Chinese culture, but were, again, responsible for educating and managing the family. Again, life in the Ming and Qing dynasty, farming, farming, farming. Families favor sons over daughter. Many worked as midwives or textiles. The two dynasties are obviously known for their ceramics and their porcelain. They're very involved in drama. And that's it, guys.